Burger King offers an adult meal for Valentine's Day in Israel. The NFL threatens the state of Texas over a proposed transgender bathroom bill. And North Korea's dictator has his half-brother assassinated in Malaysia. SkyWatchTV for Wednesday, February 15, 2017. I'm Derek Gilbert. First up, new danger at the Oroville Dam in California. Storms expected to hit the area as early as tonight, and wet weather is expected to continue through the rest of the week. Could bring another 2 to 4 inches of rain to Lake Oroville. Another storm coming Friday could drop 1 to 3 inches more. Work crews have been repairing the damaged emergency spillway since Monday, dumping 1,200 tons of rock per hour onto the hillside and then mixing concrete slurry to try to cement the stone into place. Workers at a quarry nearby cutting rock as fast as they can, some of the boulders as much as 6 tons in weight to try to fill the hole caused by the excessive rainfall. The main spillway is also damaged, but in spite of the large hole in the concrete chute there, the spillway remains open as officials try to drain the lake enough to accommodate the new rainfall that starts up tonight. Russia has told the Trump administration it does not plan to return Crimea to Ukraine. This is a response to President Trump's remarks that he expects Moscow to give it back. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Marina Zakharova said, "We don't return our territories. Crimea is a territory of the Russian Federation." Just a little history, Crimea became part of the Russian Empire in the 18th century, but was reassigned to Ukraine in 1954. However, after the coup in Ukraine in 2014, Crimeans voted overwhelmingly to join Russia. See, most Crimeans are ethnic Russians, about 58% of them. Only about 25% are Ukrainian. Now, President Trump is trying to drag the Obama administration into the ongoing uproar over what progressives hope is an opportunity to hamstring his administration. National Security Advisor Michael Flynn resigned Monday night after growing concern in the White House over contacts between Flynn and the Russian ambassador during the transition period after the election before the inauguration. Call this a victory for the neocon-dominated foreign policy establishment in Washington. To be honest with you, these so-called potentially illegal contacts between Flynn and Ambassador Sergei Kislyak are only illegal because of a 1799 law called the Logan Act, which is basically never enforced by the federal government. The Logan Act forbids private citizens from negotiating with a country in a dispute with the federal government. Usually it's trotted out to threaten American citizens who disagree with policy in Washington, D.C. Flynn is an out-of-the-box thinker who threatened to overturn the orthodox line on Russia, that Russia is and always will be an enemy of the United States. I'm not suggesting that President Putin isn't looking out for his own best interest in his dealings with the United States, but when you've got the two most heavily nuclear-armed nations on Earth, why is it a bad idea for the two of them to try to find ways to get along? Well, making this even more odd is that Flynn was the designated national security advisor at the time of these contacts when he would be expected to make contact with the heads of other governments around the world to try to establish relationships to make for a smooth transition of power. But this whole thing threatens the official narrative that Russia is to blame for American foreign policy disasters in the Middle East and, oh yeah, Hillary Clinton's disastrous run for president. The bigger question here is why the intelligence community was listening in on Michael Flynn's phone calls in the first place, and who in the intelligence community leaked transcripts of those calls to the press, the Washington Post especially, which is essentially the neocons' house organ for leaking stuff to the public that they want us to know. Chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Republican Congressman Devin Nunes of California, says he wants answers from the FBI and he'd better get them. We'll see what happens. Now, as we go through our annual ritual of collecting all the paperwork we need to file our income tax returns, it looks like the IRS this year is not going to reject returns that don't answer the health insurance coverage question. This is how the IRS is responding to President Trump's executive order directing federal agencies to provide relief to taxpayers from the burden of Obamacare. So what does that mean for you and me? Are we going to have to pay the penalty for not carrying coverage? Don't know. Ask your tax experts. But the The IRS is saying it reserves the right to follow up on those returns that don't indicate health insurance coverage status. A woman suspected of assassinating the half-brother of North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un has been arrested in Malaysia. She was taken into custody at the airport in Kuala Lumpur, where the attack took place Monday morning. Reports suggest that 46-year-old Kim Jong-nam, who had called his younger brother's regime a joke, was attacked by two North Korean operatives, female operatives. The reports vary on this. Some say they threw a poison cloth on his face. Others say they attacked him with poison needles, and others said spray. Not quite sure. Officials are still reviewing security cam footage, which is where they got this picture of the woman wearing the LOL sweatshirt. Kind of creepy. Kim Jong-nam died on the way to the hospital in Kuala Lumpur. This woman, who is identified from security camera footage, reportedly 28 years old and traveling on a Vietnamese passport. His half-brother, by the way, is not the only victim of Kim Jong-un since he took power. Dozens have been purged from North Korea's inner political circle, including Kim's uncle. In Greece, the capital city of Athens will soon have its first mosque since the end of Ottoman rule 150 years ago. The Greek parliament has approved plans to build a state-funded mosque at a cost of about $1 million. Supporters of the plan say that it could prevent the potential radicalization of tens of thousands of new Muslim refugees living in Athens. Needless to say, not everyone is on board with the plan, not least of which the Greek Orthodox Church. Of course, Western progressives have another brilliant idea for preventing the potential radicalization of Muslims, that is, reducing our carbon footprint to head off global warming, because you see, warmer temperatures make people grouchy and thus more prone to violence. Seriously, this is according to a new paper published by the Association for Psychological Science. In this paper, the authors argue, and I quote, "When people get uncomfortably hot, their tempers, irritability, and likelihood of physical aggression and violence increase," end quote. Now, there's some actual science to the study involved, but this is a summary statement here, and they spent taxpayer money on this at a state university. So, climate change not only equals a spike in violent crime in our cities, it also equals a greater likelihood of civil war. Look, violent Islam has been a problem for more than 1,400 years. During that time, average temperatures around the world have gone up and down. During most of that period, people didn't have access to sport utility vehicles and other carbon-burning implements and machinery. People have been killing each other in large numbers since the days of Nimrod, ever since somebody figured out how to take a piece of bronze and put an edge on it. Of course, when you're dealing with another army that only has clubs, the edged weapon is a weapon of mass destruction. Climate change is not responsible for violent Islam. Now, thankfully, not all violent jihadists are very bright. I don't mean to be flippant here. This is a sequence of images taken from a camera in the city of Raqqa, which is the Islamic State's capital city. It's currently being attacked by Syrian rebels and government troops. And a would-be ISIS suicide bomber was caught on film, on camera, as he tried to take out a squad of rebel soldiers. Here you see soldiers by a tank next to a building. Around the corner, you see the ISIS fighter emerge. He then detonates his vest, but you see the distance between him and the tank? This is the follow-up footage. No one injured except the suicide bomber himself. Of course, social media has had some fun with this sequence of footage, suggesting that perhaps he needed more practice with the suicide vest before actually taking it out into public. Anyway, coming up, a toy maker in the United States announces the first transgender doll for kids. That and more straight ahead on SkyWatch TV.
12 global experts present what they believe you'll see before the year 2025 in the explosive new book, I Predict. And we here at SkyWatch TV want to help equip you to face future challenges. And that's why we're offering some invaluable materials absolutely free when you purchase I Predict from the SkyWatch TV store for a limited time. While supplies last, when you purchase I Predict from the SkyWatch TV store, you'll also receive absolutely free Survive the Coming Storm. When food, gas, and other imperative resources become scarce, everything else will become dramatically more expensive, coupled with a rise in crime. Join author Ray Gano as he uses examples from history as well as from the Bible to explain what you can do to prepare and survive the coming storm. Plus, you'll also receive free Evangelpreneur from I Predict contributing author Josh Tolley. Evangelpreneur will teach you how to get your financial life to line up with your faith life, how to save your family and your church from financial ruin, and how to use sound financial planning to do God's work on earth. Altogether, this incredible offer holds a retail value of over $50, now for only $19.99 plus shipping and handling. So take advantage and equip yourself for future challenges with this incredible I Predict special offer available now at SkyWatchTVstore.com.
A mass fish kill leaves thousands of dead shad in the Little River in Windsor, Ontario. That's across from Detroit, Michigan. Environmentalists not really surprised by this, though. This one's not really a mystery. Shad normally don't swim this far north, and they are prone to temperature shock. A rapid temperature change in the river, left thousands dead. U.S. scientists softening their stance on genetic modification of human embryos. A new report from the National Academy of Sciences supports germline engineering. That's changes to the DNA that can be passed down to future generations. But they say only in cases where there are no reasonable alternatives and only when it prevents passing along serious diseases. Now, of course, the phrase reasonable alternative leaves a truck-sized loophole. Preventing disease, of course, is how this type of genetic modification will be sold to the public. But the question is how to prevent it from being used to engineer traits like strength, beauty, and intelligence into future generations. The answer, of course, is that you can't. Once the technology is reliable, money will dictate that those techniques be made available to those with the means to pay for it. And thus, those haves will not only be financial haves, but they will become genetic haves, and there will be a greater gap between the genetic haves and the genetic have-nots. Once it's available, the people who can pay for it will use their resources to make sure their children have genetic advantages over everyone else. But these breakthrough technologies are also going to lead to scams. We're already starting to see this with stem cell therapies. 10 years ago, we were promised miracle cures via stem cell. And now, today, you can buy stem cell treatments for everything from aging skin to male pattern baldness. We'll start seeing the same thing soon with DNA sequencing. Companies that have promised to tailor a weight loss program for you based on the sequences of your DNA. The truth is, we haven't decrypted the human genome well enough to be able to do that yet. Save your money. Well, another professional sports league has decided to focus on re-engineering society instead of just promoting the entertainment value of their sport. The National Football League threatening the state of Texas that it won't host any future Super Bowls if the state enacts a new transgender restroom law. The legislature there considering a bill mandating that people can only use bathrooms and changing facilities that match their birth gender instead of how they feel on a given day. The question here is, why is this any of the NFL's business? What is the NFL doing sticking its nose into this particular social issue? Of course, it's not the first one. We talked about the NHL mandating that each team have an LGBTQ diplomat or ambassador on each team. The NCAA threatened the state of North Carolina with no future tournament sites for the men's basketball tournament and women's basketball tournament if they passed a similar bathroom bill. But there are 7 other states considering similar legislation right now: Illinois, Kansas, Massachusetts, Missouri, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Wisconsin, which means the NCAA, NHL, NFL could soon run out of places to play if these bills are all enacted and turned into law. Still, the onslaught against God's creation, male and female, created he them, continues. A toy maker in New York State set to release the first transgender doll on the market. This is based on 16-year-old boy living as a girl, Jazz Jennings, star of a reality show on TLC called I Am Jazz. This toy will sell for $90. It's aimed at ages 8 and older. Now, I've not watched the program on TLC, but a writer at newsbusters.org last year wrote a review of the show and made a pretty strong case that I Am Jazz actually makes a better case for the anti-transgender movement than it does for the LGBT cause. Points out that the program, I Am Jazz, often focuses on his emotional issues and how much time and effort his mother and grandmother spend making sure that Jazz does not run out of his happy pills. You see, he was diagnosed with clinical depression in the 6th grade, and he's been on medication for it ever since. I think the obvious question here is it possible that the young man's transgenderism is a side effect of his depression instead of the other way around? And maybe, is it possible that the emotional issues are a side effect of the powerful hormone blockers he takes to suppress his body's expression of male characteristics and the powerful female hormones he's taking to try to encourage the expression of female physical characteristics? His body is essentially fighting these competing hormones that are flooding his bloodstream. And if that doesn't suggest that gender is really determined by genetics, then what does? Again, we don't pick on stories like this because we're trying to be mean-spirited or hateful. In my view, it is tragic that young people like Jazz Jennings are being enabled by those who are closest to them, the ones who should be protecting them, instead of enabling them to pursue a lifestyle where statistics put out by LGBTQ activists document that 41% of transgender people will attempt suicide at some point in their lives. Or if they're just left alone, other statistics indicate between 70 and 90% of young transgender boys and girls will grow out of the phase by the time they hit maturity. Of course, just asking the question, regardless of how we try to present it, and pointing out that the parents of Jazz Jennings and other transgender kids are pushing them into a lifestyle where there's a very high likelihood that they'll try to kill themselves, makes us the haters. So it's not really a surprise that a new survey shows that while Americans are feeling warmer, more open to religions in general, the one religious group that Americans are not feeling better about compared to a 2014 survey, evangelical Christians. Surprise, surprise. Finally, another sign of the times in which we live, our age in which we conflate lust with love. In Israel, Burger King restaurants offered a special adult meal for Valentine's Day. 6 p.m. to midnight only, adults 18 and up. It's like a kiddie meal, except for grown-ups. The meal included 2 Whoppers, 2 orders of fries, 2 beers. So, yeah, in Israel, you can get beer with your fast food, and an adult toy, your choice of a feather duster, scalp massager, or a blindfold. Again, conflation of love and lust. Well, we keep forgetting to ask this issue, speaking of love anyway, the February issue of SkyWatchTV magazine, now available. Wonderful piece in here from Tom Horn about his love. Great mind-bending article from Josh Peck and article from best-selling author Joel Richardson. My piece in here on the goddess who is clearly the spirit of our age, Inanna, the ancient Sumerian goddess, also known to us as Astarte, Aphrodite, and Venus. But a look at what her real characteristics were like, what she was really like, the goddess of war and extramarital, carnal love. And I use that term very loosely. Yeah, if there is a spirit of the age, boy, Inanna sure is a good candidate for it. SkyWatch TV magazine. Single-year subscriptions available at the SkyWatch TV store, skywatchtvstore.com. Find us online at skywatchtv.com. This week, in addition to our regular network program, you'll find a web exclusive featuring Joel Richardson, Dr. Gordon McDonald, Josh Peck, and myself. 4 of us contributed to the new book, I Predict What 12 Global Experts Believe You Will See by 2025. That's our web exclusive this week, only at skywatchtv.com and the SkyWatch TV channels on Roku and YouTube. My website, my social media stuff, you'll find that all linked at derekpgilbert.com. And thank you for watching as we keep watch. I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is SkyWatch TV.